Hey guys, welcome back to NWCS, and on this video we're going to prep you guys to know how to install cabinets or base cabinets in this video. So in this case I have two Lazy Susan cabinets to my left and my right, and I have this center cabinet that's going to be filled with drawers. So one thing I like to do whenever I have a drawer base, I love to actually drive all my fasteners from inside of the drawer base because you'll never see any of the screws. So for the filler strips that I need on my left and my right, I decided to actually drive the screws from those fillers into the Lazy Susan cabinet coming from the outside. Instead of driving them on the inside of the cabinet where you'll see it whenever you open the doors, I figured because the stiles and rails are actually thick enough, I can drive a nice trim head screw from the outside into the face frames, and now I'll keep that nice and secure. I'm going to repeat that process for both of the two Lazy Susans. That way when I slap my center base cabinet in, I'm able to clamp those units together, then drive the screws from the drawer cabinet outward and have all those cinched together. I did run into one other issue though. You see with the little bit of a flange or the side panel on this cabinet pretty much is significantly off of the wall, so I wanted to be able to fill in the wall or bring the wall out just a little bit further so I can actually catch it with the screws. And the other issue that we ran into is that this knee wall is where most of the plumbing is, so a lot of the studs are actually kind of hacked out. I wish I actually took pictures before I actually had this covered with drywall. So the way to figure it, also on this back wall, everything's on 2-foot centers. This is in a townhome, so that exterior wall has a center block wall right there, and the studs are just furring strips on 2-foot centers. So I'm barely hitting anything on pretty much on both of these two blocks I added, which is why I used liquid nail pin nails, caught the one stud that I could, and then I made sure that I let the liquid nails pretty much sit up and dry. So that way those blocks are securely attached to the wall. So when I drive my new screws to my Lazy Susans, I make sure that I actually am attaching it to something solid. And I can hit more than one stud. Pretty much I can put 2 screws, 3 screws into those blocks versus just trying to catch that one stud. And then the next step though is actually to drive the screws from the base cabinet into my two Lazy Susan cabinets on the left and the right. And to do so, whenever you're attaching filler strips, you want to make sure you have everything clamped together nice and square as well, so there's no gaps pretty much before you drive your screws, because you want your screws to hold it together in the position that it's going to be. So get everything nice in the line, clamp everything up, and have a nice tight seam before you drive in your screws. And again, like I mentioned earlier, by having trim head screws coming from the inside of the cabinet going into the face frames, you won't see anything because the drawers are typically inside the cabinet and they're going to cover all the screws and fasteners that we put in. If I did the inverse and actually drove screws through the Lazy Susan into the filler strip, you'll see all those screw holes whenever you open up the cabinet. Typically, I like to hide screw holes behind hinges if I have to, but whenever I have a cabinet with drawers in it, I know that's where I'm going to put all my screws at, because that's the best place to hide them whenever you're doing a kitchen install like this. One of the last things that we need to do though, after we get this unit pretty much put together, I don't believe I showed in this video, but I like to actually add spacers on the back side and drive screws there as well to keep the cabinets from to make sure the cabinets don't have the ability to rack, pretty much out of square after getting them all cinched together on the front side. But then after that, the last thing we need to do actually is go into the leveling process, and that ends up being a lot of fun. Whenever you're trying to level large base units like this, shims, but specifically an air shim, is probably my favorite tool to get all this dialed in. Luckily enough though, going from left to right, this was actually fairly level, and the countertop that's going to go in this section is going to be one piece, and it's going to run over across the dishwasher on top of that. So I need to get this level and the cabinet section going to my back side or closer toward the camera. All that needs to be a solid, straight, and level run going all the way around. That'll be a fun process that I'll get to show you guys in the future videos. And if you guys have enjoyed, let me know down in the comments. Leave me a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.